Hi everybody, Greg Heilman with the Sound on Stage. Today we're back doing a feature we haven't done in a while, Get to Know a Theater. Today I'm here outside in beautiful Federal Way with Centerstage Theater's artistic director, Trista Duvall. Hi Trista.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And man, what a beautiful day out here. This is the Puget Sound back
this
here?
is the Puget Sound, yeah. This
Okay.
Puget Sound behind us. This is protected land here, and the park belongs to the city currently.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So Centerstage Theater. So I came and saw a Spider's Web here a little while back. Your last show. You have First Date the musical opening up here in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
And first of all, I have to ask, the building that you're in. When I first came here, I thought it looks like a school. It looks like
it does have school vibes from this angle, especially.
yeah, it does. So before we get into a little bit of history about Centerstage Theater, the company, how about the building?
Yes, please. I love this. So this building was built in the 60s. It is a nunnery. It was built as a nunnery for Sisters of the Visitation. And that's why it's tucked into the woods. You know, people will say, oh, I drive by there all the time. I had no idea. And I'm like, yeah, because it was built to be hidden, which for a nunnery, great. For a theater, not so much. But it was built in the 60s. It was a nunnery for a while. And then sometime in the late 70s, early 80s, I want to say early 80s. I had to dig up all this history, by the way. It was bought by the city of Federal Way, and they bought it primarily. They wanted all of, you know, the park and everything to protect all of this. And then what they ended up doing is converting the nunnery into a conference, kind of not an event center, but like an overnight place that you can go. You can have, if you have your quilter or your scrapbooking group, they go in, they have a room. All they do is do their craft together, and then they all go up and they sleep, and then they come back down. So all the rooms, if you go down the hallway, it's kind of like a hotel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was in the 80s. And then the theater complex portion was added and opened in 1998. And we've essentially been the resident theater company ever since, although there are other groups that come in and out. As far as a producing resident theater company, it's us.
And as a city building, the city was behind the building of the theater wing?
Yeah, it actually was. So originally the city was behind it, but there was a lot of private fundraising. It's called the Knutzen Family Theatre because there is a family with the surname Knutzen in the Federal Way area. And in fact, a member of that family still comes. They're season ticket holders, and they come and see all of our shows. So I'll show you on the way out. There's a really nice big plaque that kind of shows you all of the groups. And Centerstage did some independent fundraising towards the Knutzen as well, and donated it. So, but the history as a nunnery is the reason for our theater ghost that I told you I would tell you about. Yeah. So when Angela and I first started working here together, she was the managing director for a year before I came on. But when I first started, I thought, here we are, this theater in this building with all this history in the middle of the woods, and we haven't even got a theater ghost. So that's not going to work out for me. So Angela and I invented one, and she is a nun, obviously, but she is benevolent. Her name is Sister Mary Christopher, and we invented her out of whole cloth the first month that I was here, and we blame everything mischievous on her. So missing props, weird noises, a light flickers, Sister Mary Christopher. And of course, things like this. Urban legends have legs and they grow, so we now have people who will swear up and down that Sister Mary Christopher is real, and they've seen her and they've heard her, and I always have to remind them that I made her up. Nope, doesn't matter. She's her own thing now, so that's our theater ghost.
Every theater has to have a good ghost.
That's exactly what I said, so that's her.
So how long have you been artistic director here at Centerstage?
My first season was 2017-18. Angela, is that right? Okay, Angela's in the background, so I have to check with her. Yeah, so Angela's first year was 2016-17. Mine was 2017-18. I did perform here as an actor before that, so that's why I get kind of muddled, because I'm like, well. But yes, it was 2017-18 was my first full season.
Okay. And as artistic director, obviously, you try to weave your own vision through programming, I would assume. What is that vision? I mean, what are your goals when programming a season here?
Well, it's multifaceted. So one of the things that Angela and I talk about a lot is that we are about breaking down barriers to live theater. And that's breaking barriers for patrons who may not otherwise be able to come and see shows, or who may think that theater is not for them for whatever reason. And then also for artists who are looking for a way to either expand their craft or build that professional side of their resume so that they can move on to whatever the next thing is. Maybe they want to move to New York. Maybe they want to go to grad school. Maybe they want to get their equity card, whatever that is. And so breaking barriers is kind of always in the back of my head. So I want to create a season that has things that feel accessible, things that may not at first blush seem accessible, but then we make them accessible, whether that's through the casting, the way we go about it, the way we present it, etc. And then maybe a show or two that are ones that you've never heard of before that kind of challenge people. So that's how I go about. I want to make sure that variety is in a 5-show season.
Okay.
And that's very much what I do. And also I really believe that laughter and comedy and lightness, even if it's a dark comedy or even if it's a show that's not, it doesn't have to be knee slapping the whole way through, but it has that levity. That's how you open people up to new thoughts and ideas and messages.
Sure.
And get them to kind of come in and also just have that shared experience of shared humanity of laughing. So that is also kind of woven through. That is one thing. You won't catch us doing Titus Andromachus anytime soon. That's just not me. So
Well, that's the beauty of live theater or even any event off the couch,
right?
Because you're competing not just with other theaters in the area, but you're competing with Netflix and
Right.
Disney Plus and
Right.
all of these other things at home. But the shared experience in a theater space where you're laughing together, where you're gasping together,
Right.
or whichever, really makes it a difference. Makes more of an event.
Exactly. Yeah. Which has been so fun, especially since COVID.
Yeah,
It's
for
been so
sure.
important to have
For
those
sure.
moments, right? Yeah.
So how have your speaking of COVID, how have your crowds or your audiences been since COVID?
They are coming back. It's been slower moving, obviously, I think, than most theaters would like. I think all of us would have loved if the doors opened after all the strictures lifted and everyone came flooding back, but that doesn't happen. And of course, it varies on a show by show basis. Our panto it's our tentpole production. We are known for our holiday panto. That's a fairy tale that's kind of mixed up and twisted and has these stock characters that our audience loves and can't wait to see every year. Certain routines, pop music, all that. So that's a very popular thing that both patrons and artists return to again and again. So we always know there's going to be a bump there no matter what. But it can be hard in this kind of post-pandemic moment to convince people that theater shouldn't be the last on a list of luxuries that they see if they can afford, that it really is integral to a fully integrated lifestyle that embraces the arts and humanities and where you connect with your fellow man
Sure.
and where you're supporting the arts in your community. And that's kind of the challenge I think most theaters are probably facing right
Okay.
now. Yeah.
I want to go back a second. We were talking about the breaking barriers and talking
Sure.
about this kind of being a stepping stone to whatever an actor wants to do next. How do you work? You almost sound like a guidance counselor in that, learning. Do you get to know the actors to the extent of, hey, I know this person wants to go get the equity card. This person, his goal is Broadway, or her goal is just to, work locally. How do you work that?
Yeah, just pretty much like that. Angela, do you want to be on video? I know you don't like video. Okay, well, I was trying to invite my managing director to be on video. She just wants to stand there. That's fine. You just wave your arms like this if I say anything horrible that you don't want to be on the record. Yeah, that is actually what I do. I obviously can't get to know everybody right away fully. And a lot of our artists that come through they're just here. They want to have a good, fun, great experience. And that's what they do. And that's great. And they're really kind of the spine, especially during COVID, people who were here kind of transitionally, rather like right before college or before they moved somewhere, as they were building their road to wherever. COVID removed a lot of them from this sphere, right?
Yeah.
So right after COVID, the only artists here really were the ones who live in Tacoma, Federal Way, Seattle. We have artists from Olympia all the way up to Seattle or to Everett and everywhere in between. The ones who lived here, they worked a different day job here and maybe they got a degree in theater. A lot of them did and ended up doing something else for their 9 to 5. And this is where they blow off steam or get that creative fulfillment or whatever. And they were the ones that pulled us through that first season and a half, especially because they were still here while we waited for people to kind of filter back in. So they mostly kind of do that. And of course I get to know them very well over time, but even in general auditions, a lot of times I'll spend a couple minutes just doing a quote. So tell me about yourself. Are you new? If I don't know them. But yeah, it's very common for me to have a sit down if I have someone who comes to me and says, well, I really want to direct. And they just say that. And I think, well, that could mean a lot of things. And it could mean a lot of things about your level of experience. So I'll take some time. Okay, what have you been doing? What do you want to do? And I will. I'll note it down. I'll see where people are. And we can't build that runway for everyone because we're limited in size and scope and resource and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times I can help people, and I can help people because I've got relational bridges with other theaters and other groups. So, I had a young person who came to me and wanted to work on their directing resume, and they weren't ready to direct on our main stage yet because they didn't have the experience, but I knew some small community theaters that were looking for new directors, and I was able to connect them there and get them jobs there by writing letters of recommendation. I write a ton. I've written so many graduate school letters of recommendation. But yeah, I see that as part of my job. I don't think it's part of every artistic director's job, but the culture that we've built here as a theater is very much about, the artists are giving us something valuable and we're giving them something valuable in the experience. And part of that exchange is, let us help you navigate how to get to the next thing, whatever that may be. Even if it's just your next performance is stronger than this one was. I'm really passionate about that. Young artists have a really special place in my heart. So, and older ones too, but a lot of times it's not usually a 58-year-old coming and going, so I really want to
get the Broadway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty, if you gave me a list right now of most of my artists, I could tell you who wants to go where, who has a goal, beyond the South Puget Sound, who doesn't. I could probably go right down the list.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really important to me.
So your relationship with the city, you obviously are renting your space from the city.
Uh-huh.
Are there, and you've got from the space, and we just went through a tour of the space. You have a rehearsals hall, which looks like an old ballet studio. We have pictures of that.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Dressing rooms. Your wings aren't super huge.
No.
so there's, I guess, a limitation there on what you can do. But
yes.
From the just generally though, how well can you meet your vision that you have for a particular season here? Have you run into places where, hey, the space is a limitation for something I really want to do?
Yeah. Angela and I have this conversation frequently because people will come to me when they know it's season picking time. They're like, I have a show for you. And they're like, you should do, I don't know, Mary Poppins. Nobody suggested that, thankfully, but something like that. And you've seen our backstage. Like, no, we can't. And I don't have the rigging and I don't have the space, so there are definitely, when I sit down to look at shows for the season, a huge chunk of shows are out right off the bat because of limitations like that, which I think a lot of theaters have, right? I've described our panto to you a little bit. Certainly in Great Britain, where pantos are the thing, there are big theaters with proscenium stages, and they do pantos, but it is not the same feel. If we suddenly move to a space like that, our audience would lose something from that experience. Yeah. So it can be a plus as well, but it takes out a lot of shows. And sometimes it is about the tech that we can fit in, what we can fit in the wings, the set pieces. If you need a huge turntable in the middle of your stage, I can't offer that. And then sometimes it's just about cast size. We top out. We will never really be able to do a show over, even 20 would be like, I don't remember. How many did we have in Bye Bye Birdie? Angela, do you remember? It's like 17. That's what I thought. And even that was like, whoo, all right, here we go. 17. We had, a lot, the teams were, in the rehearsal hall, and we had cordoned off spaces with, screens for them to use as their dressing rooms and all that kind of stuff. All in, because the adults are here, the teens are here, and the kids are here, and it was wild. It was really fun, but I would say, yeah, if I ever came to Angela and said that I wanted to do a show of 20 or more in the cast, she would be like, lovingly, the answer is no, because we just can't do it. So yeah, that is a huge, when I'm looking for shows and I'm going, okay, well, we can't do that. We can't, it starts, I always joke that when you first go on to some of the bigger licensing companies like Concord, you start and it's like 10,000 shows. And then as I start to put in the things that limit us specifically, for whatever reason, it just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And then it's like 42 shows. And I'm going, great. So that is a big challenge.
So what is the process to go out and I know some people tour the country and go to shows everywhere and pick out shows that they like to do. Some just read scripts. What's your process for building your knowledge base of shows from which to choose?
Yeah, I read them. I read a lot. I can't. The theater, our theater right now is, it's small. Our infrastructure is small. We put on great shows, and people who have seen a lot of our shows but don't know kind of the inner workings are almost uniformly shocked when they find out that we have social media and marketing manager who's like part-time and doing the thing, and she's incredible. And she does that. And then we have a community outreach and volunteer coordinator who's part-time. And so they're doing those things. And then you've met Nick, who's the tech director. And then the infrastructure of the day-to-day of the artistic, of all the financials, of all, it's Angela and I, essentially. We have some fabulous volunteers who really hold a lot of things together for us. But when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of, can I be gone for an entire weekend of shows because of whatever, like, it is very few and far between. I could probably count on both hands the number of shows Angela and I have missed, like performances we haven't been here for since I started. I mean, it's hardly ever. So that makes it really difficult to see shows other places, because I can't hand the keys to somebody else and go, hey, I'm not going to be here because I'm going to go see other shows.
Yeah.
I am able to see sometimes, especially if it's staggered, and we kind of split. I think if there's something that we really feel like we need to see, whether it's because we have a lot of artists who are involved, which is typically one of the drivers, or a director whose work I want to see. Angela usually takes the north end and I usually take the south end just because of where we live. So I do see shows at most of the Tacoma theaters. I've seen shows at all of them at some point. But it's a lot easier for me to do it via reading. And I think because my background is that I'm trained in musical theater performance, I'm pretty okay at reading a script and picturing the whole thing. It doesn't just feel like a dry, like I can read the script and see it, and so that's helpful.
It's a decent story.
Yeah. And I will say one of my favorite compliments, it's funny because I don't hear it very often because I think people think it's an insult. So the last time I heard it was for Spider's Web, and the guy didn't know I was listening. It was one of my designers. And when he saw I was listening, he kind of did the like, oh, and I said, no, actually, I love hearing this. And what he was saying was, when I first read this script, I thought, why would you pick this play? I don't see where it's funny or humorous. Or he was like, I read it and I thought, okay. Whereas I read it and saw all the possibilities, especially if I got this director and this designer, and because I do that, how I pull it together. And when it came together, I went, yep, this is what I knew it could be. And whereas he looked at it and went, I had no idea it could be this. To me, that's a huge compliment, because that means I was able to do that. So, that's something I'm really proud of.
So, speaking of plays and your artistic vision, is there any news on next season?
There is secret news that I can't tell you, but I can probably tell you when the camera's off, but you can't publicize it. But our fundraiser is going to be in early May. And so I will be announcing the season at the fundraiser. It's on May the 4th is our fun, right?
May the 4th be with you.
That's what I'm saying. This is why I'm wearing this. So we're going to announce it then. And then in the summer, we'll do our pre-sales, ticket pre-sales and everything like that. But we're also hoping to do a fun cabaret night launch, kind of like soft launch for the season ticket sales. So we really want to make an event out of it. If you're at the fundraiser, you'll get to hear about it. And then if you come to that launch, you'll get to hear some fun perks and different things like that of what it is to be a season subscriber. So we'll be doing that as well. But expect more of the same fun variety and mix and something for everybody.
I would hope so. Yeah. So information about the gala and all of it can be found on your website, social media. Yeah. Where can people learn about that?
So our website is centerstagetheater.com, and it's theater, TRE at the end, the fancy way. And then our social media is really active. We are on Facebook and we are on Instagram, Centerstage Theater or Centerstage_theater. You can find us, and Celebrate Centerstage is the name of our fundraiser every year. It is on May 4th, and you'll be able to find that information on there. It's a hybrid event in that there's an online auction portion that will open a week before the event. And then there's the live auction that you have to buy your ticket and be there, and you have the dinner and the entertainment and all the fun stuff there. But anyone can hop on and look at the online auction and participate in that and be a part of that. And so you could be in Poughkeepsie, New Jersey, and you can still support the theater, although you will have to come to us to pick up your plant basket.
It's a long drive.
Yeah, but it's worth it for art. Yeah, so that's where you can find that.
Okay, so and final question: how can people support the theater?
By buying tickets and coming to see our shows. That is a major one. Of course, donations are always welcome. If there are small, medium, large size businesses that are looking to sponsor, we have some really fantastic community outreach programs that we do with teens and youth in Federal Way at no cost to them that we're always looking for help with because we take on the labor and cost of those things because we believe in them. But we
do you do season sponsors and show sponsors?
Yeah, yeah. And so we have season sponsors, event sponsors for things such as our high school outreaches and things like that, and then individual show sponsors. So all of those are available, and depending on what level of sponsorship membership, we have all of that information. And that's all, you get shout out every show, you get in the playbill, we talk about, we talk to the media, all that good stuff. And then, individual donors, of course. But buying tickets is huge because you're obviously monetarily supporting theater. You're there supporting the art, and then it helps build that community web, right? And if you come and see a show and you like it and you tell your friend and they tell their friend, that's much more effective than even seeing an ad on Facebook. It's really effective to have a friend or family member say, you need to experience this.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest compliments we get is if somebody comes to see a show and then comes back and brings friends and family and says, I've already seen the show, but my mom needed to see this, or my neighbor had to see this. And that's a huge way that we thrive, and it's a huge way that we build our audiences. So our next show coming up is First Date, the musical. It's really fun. It's an adult's night out. It's not for kids, which my kids have given me an earful about, I'll tell you that. But it's really fun. The show was actually developed here in Seattle at our Equity Theaters in Seattle before it was moved to Broadway. And so it's kind of fun to kind of come full circle and have it here. It's got some great talent. It's a total trip. It's really, really fun time. It's one of those nights where you want to go out to dinner first, then you want to get here early, have one of our craft cocktails because they're super good, and then sit down and watch a show and just laugh and enjoy and maybe cry a little bit. Might make you cry a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah. Speaking of the craft cocktails, you do have a nice little area outside the theater where you have a I guess the bar where you can buy the candy and soda and things, and you have your bar where you have your craft cocktails and all of that sort of stuff.
Yes. And we're very proud of those. We work with Blackfish Spirits Distillery. They're a local small batch distillery. They're family owned. So we have a personal relationship with them, and we work with them. And so if they come up with if they are coming out with a new alcohol or something like that, they'll reach out to us and let us know it's coming. And we have an artist who's done shows here, but she's also a mixologist and she has years of experience. So she comes up with the coolest drinks. So our drinks are always really exciting and fun. And we're actually coming up on drink mixing night, which is when we all get together and we put together the mixes she came up with, and all of us that have our mass license and will be working on it all kind of sit and we all, oh yes, this one, this, and this one, we pretend to be much bougier than we are, and then we set it up and take pictures for publicity, and it's super fun. So yeah, we're pretty proud of that relationship and that product.
Excellent. Well, Trista, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Get to know a theater, Centerstage Theater here in Federal Way. For more interviews and my stage reviews and everything, head out to thesoundonstage.org. And until the next time, I will see you at the stage door.